Hold on tight, because this story is about to take another dramatic turn. If you're loving this wild ride of betrayal, secrets, and high-stakes drama, hit that like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling us what you think. Every single interaction helps us bring more gripping tales to life. A glimmer of hope shattered. Felicity believed her pregnancy would be the final thread to truly bind her world with Marcos's. She hoped it would make him slow down, be more present, both physically and emotionally. It was a chance to deepen their marriage with a profound commitment. However, Felicity noticed a shift in Marcos even before she could break the news. He became distant, prone to secret phone calls, and unexplained nights away from home. Felicity decided to wait for the right moment to tell him about the pregnancy, perhaps a quiet evening when he seemed more relaxed. Days turned into weeks, and Marcos remained restless. He canceled a weekend trip to the Hamptons, citing urgent business. His phone lit up with messages from unknown numbers. Late dinners became cold plates on the dining room table. Felicity tried to calm herself, insisting Marcos was just under pressure. After all, multimillion-dollar deals didn't close themselves. But her heart sank with the growing suspicion that something more sinister was at play. Could there be another woman? Anxious to confide, she turned to her childhood friend, Olivia Davies, a pediatric nurse with a heart of gold who'd known her since they were 10. In a cozy Brooklyn cafe, Felicity finally confessed her pregnancy, admitting her fear that her marriage was crumbling. Olivia listened intently, reminding her that communication was key. That night, Felicity resolved to tell Marcos about the baby as soon as possible. She believed this shared miracle would restore their bond. But what she didn't know was that Marcos's mind was drifting further and further away, ensnared in a dangerous secret that would soon shatter their lives in ways she could never have imagined. The Serpent in Paradise. Meet Chloe Price. Chloe Price was a name that circulated through New York's high society circles like a whispered rumor. People spoke of her with a mixture of fascination, envy, and dread. Born in a small Florida town, Chloe had moved to the city of dreams with grand aspirations. She didn't come from money, but she possessed an uncanny ability to infiltrate exclusive events and private gatherings. Some said she had a hypnotic charm, others that she was simply cunning. Whatever the truth, Chloe cultivated connections with anyone who could help her climb. She briefly worked as a model, snagged small roles in soap operas. Over time, she became a recurring figure in the city's most exclusive clubs. She wore haute couture, often acquired with the help of friends, attracting the attention of magnates, celebrities, and even some minor royals. Chloe was a chameleon, adopting the persona that best fit each situation. It was only a matter of time before she set her sights on bigger prey. Marcus Thorne's charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art was the perfect hunting ground. The imposing interior, adorned with ancient sculptures and gold-framed Renaissance paintings, was packed with the city's most influential figures. The event's official purpose was to raise funds for a new museum wing, but behind the champagne flutes and dazzling gowns, everyone vied for status. Chloe, in a backless emerald gown that accentuated her fiery red hair, made her entrance as if she owned the place. She scanned the room until her gaze landed on Marcus. A charming smile, an imposing posture, and a flawlessly tailored navy suit. Immediately, she sensed the hidden vulnerability beneath his outward confidence. She lingered at the edges of the crowd until she found the perfect opportunity to approach him. Their first conversation was drenched in flirtation. Chloe laughed at precisely the right moments, subtly brushed her hand against Marcus's arm, and flattered him with strategic comments. "Your philanthropic vision is truly admirable," she purred, her smile appearing genuine. "In such a cutthroat city, you're one of the few authentic men." Marcus, flattered by her attention, found a refuge in her. She was different from the usual socialites, those who only saw him as a trophy, or so he thought. In the weeks that followed, Chloe skillfully inserted herself into Marcus's life. She showed up at the same charity events, feigning coincidence. She sent him emails with ideas for collaborating on a charity fashion show. Slowly, Marcus found himself caught in long nightly phone calls with her, filled with seductive laughter and confessions about his personal anxieties. Chloe masterfully exploited Marcus's loneliness, offering him an escape from his marital anxieties. Marcus, despite his business acumen, underestimated how dangerous emotional vulnerability could be. The more he succumbed to Chloe's flattery, the more secrets he kept from Felicity. Soon, clandestine dinners replaced business meetings. The sparkle of champagne and Chloe's unwavering attention became addictive, overshadowing the guilt that still gnawed at his conscience. But Chloe Price wasn't just a fleeting affair. She had embedded herself in the cracks of his marriage. And as Marcus succumbed to temptation, he still didn't realize that every secret, sooner or later, leads to a public reckoning, especially when the stakes are this high. The seeds of doubt. Felicity never considered herself a jealous or paranoid woman. She trusted Marcus, knowing he was a man of principle, a businessman who valued loyalty. Yet, she couldn't ignore the subtle shifts in his behavior. When Marcus began receiving an unusual number of late-night texts, her curiosity piqued. When he vanished for urgent business dinners that never resulted in official announcements, the unease in her stomach intensified. One Monday morning, Felicity woke to find Marcus already dressed, murmuring into his phone from their penthouse balcony. Seeing her, he abruptly turned and ended the call. The tension in his jaw and his sudden silence told her all she needed to know. He was hiding something. She approached him and gently placed a hand on his arm, asking about the call. Marcus forced a reassuring smile, claiming it was a routine business matter he couldn't discuss yet. Though Felicity wanted to believe him, her intuition screamed otherwise. A gnawing dread settled into her days. Each morning, she'd prepare breakfast in silence, hoping Marcus would join her at the table. Sometimes, he'd barely grab a piece of toast before rushing out. Other times, he'd simply leave without explanation. In the evenings, Felicity sat in the spacious living room, reading or trying to finalize her charity projects, while Marcus endlessly typed on his phone, seated across the sofa. Whenever she tried to glance over, he'd quickly turn his mobile out of sight. Determined not to jump to conclusions, Felicity sought Olivia Davies's advice again. They met at a cozy cafe near Washington Square Park, and Felicity confessed her growing suspicions. Olivia advised her to talk openly with Marcus, to demand the truth for the sake of their marriage and the baby. Felicity understood the wisdom in her friend's words, but an indescribable fear paralyzed her. She worried that confronting him would confirm her worst nightmares or drive him away forever. Her resolve crumbled further when, by accident, she found a receipt in one of Marcus's jackets. It was for 2 lavish dinners at Le Bernardin, dated the very night he'd claimed to be stuck in a board meeting. She recognized the charge on the black Amex card, the same one Marcus used exclusively for personal expenses. Her heart pounded as she imagined Marcus sitting under the dim, romantic lighting of Le Bernardin with another woman. She was pregnant, carrying his child, and all he seemed to do was invent excuses to be elsewhere. That night, Felicity waited up until Marcus returned home. He stumbled in well past midnight. An expensive perfume, not hers, clung to his shirt. She stood at the top of the grand spiral staircase, her eyes welling with tears. Marcus stopped dead at the sight of her, mumbling a confused explanation about a client dinner that ran late. Felicity wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she turned and walked away in silence, letting her shimmering tears speak for themselves. The birthday of betrayal. What Felicity didn't know was that the next move in this twisted game was already planned. In less than a month, Marcus's birthday was approaching, and with it, the perfect storm would unleash. Marcus's birthday was always an extravagant event, orchestrated by a small army of event planners, PR experts, and household staff. This year would be no exception. His 30th birthday promised to surpass all previous celebrations. In New York's elite circles, rumors swirled about the guest list, supposedly including famous actors, key business allies, and influential politicians. The party was said to take place on a luxurious yacht docked on the Hudson, complete with a live orchestra, fireworks, and gourmet cuisine. Historically, Felicity played a central role in organizing these galas. She planned the guest list, chose the decor, and worked hand-in-hand with Marcus to ensure everything was perfect. But this time, Marcus took a far more active role than usual. He delegated most tasks to a flamboyant event coordinator named Julian Price, leaving Felicity on the sidelines. She did her best to contribute, but every time she tried to confirm details, Julian merely offered vague references to Mr. Thorne's private instructions. Felicity felt excluded, a mere bystander in what should have been a shared celebration. Behind it all, Marcus struggled with his emotions. Despite loving Felicity, admiring her unwavering kindness, and the reality of their unborn child, he couldn't deny the raw attraction he felt for Chloe. Trapped between guilt and excitement, he convinced himself he could manage both worlds. But the most unsettling thing was that Chloe increasingly hinted at her desire to be part of the celebration. She sent him flirty messages about a special gift she had prepared for him. Chloe would deliver her special gift in person. The thought of her infiltrating the crowd mixed adrenaline and fear in equal measure. Sometimes, Marcus considered confessing his affair to Felicity. The burden of the lie weighed on him, especially as he saw her grow more fragile with each passing day. He noticed her subdued spirits, the apprehension in her gaze, but he said nothing. He wondered if fear kept him silent. Fear of losing Felicity, fear of public scandal, fear of destroying the perfect image he had built. Meanwhile, Felicity found solace by clinging to the life growing inside her. Despite the anguish consuming her, she held onto the idea that the baby could bring a new beginning. She visited Dr. Eleanor Vance at Mount Sinai Hospital. Dr. Vance confirmed the pregnancy was progressing well, but warned her to stay calm and reduce her stress levels. Felicity gave a nervous laugh, knowing her life at that moment was anything but relaxing. Still, the ultrasound images, that tiny heartbeat on the screen, gave her a glimmer of strength. In a desperate attempt to salvage some unity, Felicity proposed to Marcus that they announce the pregnancy at his birthday party. She imagined sharing the news with their friends and business partners as a symbol of celebration and hope. Marcus's reaction was lukewarm. On one hand, he didn't want to divert attention from the party's extravagance. On the other, he was terrified of how Chloe might react. And so, the threads of tension continued to tangle. The invitations were sent, the yacht was ready, and the entire city buzzed with anticipation for the party of the year. With each passing day, Felicity felt something monumental was about to happen, something that could bring joy or devastation. What she didn't know was that when the big night arrived, her worst fears would be eclipsed by an even darker betrayal. The revelation on the Hudson. A night breeze swept across the Hudson River as the Thorne yacht shimmered under the twilight sky. The vessel, appropriately named Eternity, was a modern marvel. Polished teak decks, an immaculate silver hull, and an upper deck adorned with sparkling lights. Guests arrived in limousines, gliding along a red carpet that extended to the yacht's luxuriously decorated entrance. Photographers swarmed the docks, eager to capture the city's most influential figures. Marcus's reputation as a billionaire visionary ensured everyone wanted a glimpse of the event. Inside, the decor, meticulously orchestrated by Julian Price, featured hundreds of white orchids, gold-edged tablecloths, and glistening crystal chandeliers that bathed the guests in soft, sophisticated light. A live orchestra played classical music with a contemporary twist, setting a festive and elegant mood. Everywhere Felicity looked, she saw familiar faces. Senators, CEOs, fashion icons, and even a renowned actor, rumored to be this year's Oscar favorite. Guests mingled, sipping aged champagne from flutes and sampling delicate appetizers prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. Felicity, in a flowing sapphire blue gown that discreetly concealed her small baby bump, tried to play her role as the impeccable hostess. She offered polite smiles, chatted about philanthropic initiatives, and thanked attendees for their presence. But behind her serene facade, her heart thumped with unease. Marcus was nowhere to be found. She'd seen him earlier, greeting foreign investors from Dubai, but he'd vanished into the crowd shortly after. Finally, Felicity spotted him near the yacht's railing, engrossed in an animated conversation with a woman whose back was turned to her. Felicity's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized Chloe's vibrant red hair, falling in soft waves over her shoulders. She instantly knew it was her. Chloe wore a form-fitting black dress that highlighted every curve of her figure, complemented by a diamond necklace that gleamed like a constellation. Marcus looked tense, gesticulating in a way that indicated he was trying to maintain composure. Felicity's stomach churned with an urgent need to approach, but just then, a board member from Marcus's company intercepted her to discuss the upcoming shareholders' meeting. Trapped by social formalities, Felicity forced herself to exchange polite phrases, but her eyes couldn't help but dart back to Marcus and Chloe. She watched, her heart in her throat, as Chloe slid a hand over Marcus's chest, a gesture too intimate for a mere conversation. Moments later, the orchestra conductor gently tapped his baton against the stand, and a solemn silence fell over the crowd. Julian Price took center stage with a microphone in hand, announcing the start of the festivities and praising Marcus for his philanthropy and foresight. The spotlight fell on Marcus, who advanced with a practiced smile. He gave a brief speech thanking everyone for attending, speaking of future business ventures, charitable projects, and the fundamental role each person in the room had played in his success. What he didn't mention was the child Felicity carried in her womb, nor the woman who, silently, stood just behind him. Felicity's heart sank. They had discussed the possibility of announcing the pregnancy, but Marcus seemed to have conveniently forgotten that plan. When his speech concluded, the crowd erupted in applause. The music resumed, the party regained its energy, and fireworks lit up the sky with flashes of color reflecting on the water. A wave of excitement enveloped everyone present. Everyone except Felicity. She stood still, feeling invisible and utterly alone, still unaware of the magnitude of the betrayal she was about to discover. The crushing truth. Surrounded by sparkling socialites and crystalline laughter, Felicity felt an inexplicable urge to ascend to the upper deck, where a more private lounge stretched along the yacht. Something within her told her Marcus and Chloe were there, hidden from the party's curious gazes. As fireworks blazed in the sky, Felicity discreetly excused herself and ascended the curved staircase, each step marked by the pounding of her heart in her chest. Upstairs, dim table lamps illuminated the seating areas, designed for more intimate conversations. Felicity scanned the space, adjusting to the gloom, and then she saw them. Behind a grand piano, in a corner partially obscured by flowing curtains swaying in the breeze, were Marcus and Chloe. They laughed softly, heads tilted toward each other, champagne glasses in hand. Felicity's breath hitched when she saw Chloe's perfectly manicured hand resting on Marcus's shoulder as she leaned in to whisper something in his ear. The sparkle in Marcus's eyes, his relaxed posture, the evident fascination on his face. It all felt like a stab to Felicity's chest. This was the Marcus she remembered from when they first started dating. Open, relaxed, captivated. Only now that gaze wasn't for her. Tears blurred her vision. Her first instinct was to run, to spare herself the humiliation of confronting them. But she couldn't look away. Her chest tightened when she heard Marcus laugh softly, and saw him gently brush a strand of hair from Chloe's face. In that moment, Felicity's heart shattered. The suspicion that had tormented her for weeks transformed into an irrefutable truth. Suddenly, Chloe leaned in and pressed her lips against Marcus's. The kiss lasted only an instant, but for Felicity, it was an eternity. Her emotions swirled into a corrosive vortex of anger, despair, and betrayal. She had dreamed of surprising Marcus with the news of their baby, imagining the moment they would embrace with tears of joy. Now she was the one crying, alone, while he shared an intimate moment with his lover. Felicity raised a trembling hand to her lips, stifling the sobs that threatened to break the silence. She backed away slowly, the soft fabric of her dress brushing the floor in a barely audible whisper. She turned and descended the stairs quickly, leaving behind the glittering illusion of the night. She moved through the crowd unseen, tears silently streaming down her face. In the main salon, she collided head-on with Santiago Ruiz, an old friend of the Thorne family who had flown from London to attend the event. His face immediately showed concern as he noticed Felicity's reddened eyes. She could barely whisper, "I can't stay here. Santiago, please help me." Without hesitation, Santiago guided her off the yacht to a waiting car at the dock. From the back window, Felicity took one last look at the yacht, resplendent with lights and laughter. She no longer recognized it. It was Marcus's birthday, and he was celebrating it with another woman, while his pregnant wife disappeared into the darkness, tears streaking her cheeks. The confrontation. Marcus, oblivious to Felicity having witnessed his infidelity, returned to the lower deck after his clandestine encounter with Chloe. The party was still in full swing. Guests crowded the bar. The band played a lively dance number. 20 minutes passed before Marcus noticed Felicity was gone. Unease grew in his chest as he scanned the crowd of elegantly dressed faces. He couldn't find her. He called Julian Price and asked if he'd seen Felicity. Julian shrugged, vaguely mentioning she'd disappeared shortly after the speech. A wave of anxiety washed over Marcus. His mind raced with possibilities. She found out. Panic ignited within him as he discreetly excused himself from the party and dialed her number. No answer. Meanwhile, in the car taking her back, Santiago tried to calm a distraught Felicity. She insisted on returning to the penthouse. She needed answers, closure, or something. Anything to help her cope with the horror of what she'd just witnessed. During the drive, Santiago, who had known Marcus since childhood, cautiously tried to get her to talk. But Felicity could barely utter a word. Tears flowed in waves, interspersed with choked whispers. When they arrived at the penthouse, Felicity collapsed onto the sofa, her trembling hands clutching a cushion. Santiago sat beside her, an arm protectively around her shoulders. He felt the need to protect her, but also a growing frustration towards Marcus for betraying the values their families had always instilled in them. Back on the yacht, Marcus finally received a message from Santiago. "Felicity is safe at home. I suggest you come immediately." Relief clashed with dread as Marcus read the message. Without explanation to the guests, he discreetly left the party, ignoring Chloe's inquisitive stares. Half an hour later, he entered the penthouse. He found Felicity huddled on the sofa, her tear-streaked face reflecting such deep anguish that he felt nauseous. Santiago stood by the window, arms crossed in silent judgment. The air was thick with tension, like the atmosphere just before a storm. "Felicity," Marcus began, his voice breaking. She looked up, her eyes blazing with pain. "No," she whispered. "You're a monster. A cheat. On your birthday, Marcus. When I'm carrying your child." The last word hit him like a hammer blow. "You're pregnant," he stammered, his expression flooded with shock and shame. Felicity nodded miserably, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. The reality of what he'd done hit him like a speeding train. This moment should have been one of joy, the discovery that they were having a baby. Instead, he had been the cause of Felicity's pain. Guilt enveloped him. He tried to approach her, but she tensed, raising a hand to stop him. Santiago cleared his throat. "Marcus, you crossed a line. Felicity needs space, and you need to think about your priorities. I suggest you find somewhere else to stay tonight." Torn between his desire to comfort Felicity and respect for her evident pain, Marcus nodded slowly. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice trembling. Felicity didn't respond. She just closed her eyes and turned away. Santiago escorted him to the door, leaving him alone to face the cold reality of his actions on what should have been his happiest night. The truth revealed. The next morning, Felicity woke in a silent penthouse. Sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the remnants of a night of despair. Santiago had slept in the guest room to ensure she wasn't alone. Sitting at the marble kitchen counter, a warm cup of tea clutched in her hands, Felicity felt empty, as if her soul had been wrung dry overnight. The images of Marcus and Chloe were seared into her mind. There weren't enough tears to erase them. Santiago approached quietly. "How do you feel?" he asked, his voice laden with concern. Felicity's lips tightened into a tense line. Broken, but I need answers. Her voice was firm, though her hands trembled. She deserved to know the truth. Gathering more strength than she thought she possessed, Felicity dialed Marcus's number. He answered on the first ring. They agreed to meet in a private lounge at the Pierre Hotel, far from paparazzi and curious neighbors. Santiago offered to accompany her, but Felicity insisted she needed to face Marcus alone. When she arrived, Marcus was already seated in a secluded booth. In front of him, an untouched cup of coffee. His usually impeccable appearance showed signs of disarray. Ruffled hair, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. As soon as he saw Felicity, his face twisted with remorse. He stood up, but she raised a hand, gesturing for him to remain seated. No pleasantries, she asked. How long? Marcus hesitated, swallowing hard. A few months. I met her at a charity gala. I never wanted it to go this far. Felicity's hands trembled on the table. And you hid it from me while I was expecting our child? Her voice broke with disbelief. He flinched, tears shining in his eyes. I had no idea you were pregnant. And yes, I was irresponsible, selfish. I was so stressed, and Chloe. She seemed to understand me in a way that... His voice trailed off, ashamed of the pathetic justification he was offering. Emotions swirled within Felicity. Rage, pain, betrayal. She fought to maintain her composure. Do you love her? She whispered. Marcus breathed raggedly. No, Felicity. It was never love. It was a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. His gaze softened with desperation. I love you, Felicity. You're my wife. The only woman I've ever truly wanted. The weight of his confession fell upon them like a suffocating blanket. Felicity remembered their wedding, the promises they made, the sincere devotion in Marcus's eyes as he spoke his vows. Now every moment was tainted with doubt. At that instant, her phone vibrated with a message from Olivia Davies. Sorry to add more stress, but a gossip columnist named Alan Sterling is asking about last night's yacht drama. The paparazzi have photos of you leaving in tears. Call me. Felicity's stomach plummeted. The betrayal she was trying to process privately was about to become public. Marcus reached out to touch her. She pulled away. I can't do this right now. Her voice trembled with pain. The tabloids are already on it. I have to think about what to do. About us? About the baby? About this mess. She stood up, a whirlwind of emotions inside her. Marcus watched her walk away, unable to stop her. As she disappeared down the hotel corridors, he remained in the booth, feeling the crushing weight of the consequences he had unleashed. Public scandal and a desperate plea. News of the scandal exploded quickly. Media outlets were filled with rumors about Marcus Thorne's alleged infidelity. Blogs, tabloids, and entertainment shows talked about nothing else. Photos of Felicity leaving the yacht in tears flooded social media. And now, the entire world waited for her reaction. Would she leave him forever? Was there a prenup? Was the unborn baby in danger? As the scandal spread, Marcus's meticulously crafted public image began to fracture. Investors grew uneasy, fearing the personal crisis could destabilize Thorne Enterprises. Entertainment columnists pounced on every shred of information, scrutinizing Marcus's fortune, his corporate deals, and his philanthropic initiatives. But the worst was Chloe Price. She seemed eager for the media attention, fueling the rumors with social media posts full of innuendo. Cryptic phrases like, a romance for the ages, and a man who deserves true passion ignited speculation. Felicity, seeking distance from the penthouse that echoed with memories of betrayal, took refuge at Santiago Ruiz's home on the Upper East Side. Never in her life had she yearned so much for privacy. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from well-meaning friends, messages from cunning reporters desperate for an exclusive. Olivia Davies visited frequently, offering support and accompanying her to prenatal appointments. If it weren't for the life growing inside her, Felicity would have succumbed completely to despair. Instead, She found strength in the certainty that her baby needed her. Marcus, desperate to save his marriage, bombarded her with messages and calls. Apologies, pleas, promises. He offered to attend couples therapy, cut all ties with Chloe, publicly declare his devotion to Felicity. But the more he insisted, the more she pulled away. She remained tormented by the image of Chloe on the yacht. The casual intimacy between them spoke of something deeper than a mere slip-up. Meanwhile, Thorne Enterprises faced its own storm. Several major shareholders considered withdrawing their investments, concerned about the stain the scandal could leave on the company's reputation. Rival magnates circled like vultures, hoping to buy shares if the price dropped. Marcus called frantic meetings with the board, assuring them that his personal life would not affect business. Though his charisma appeased some, the sense of crisis persisted. Finally, Marcus asked Santiago Ruiz to arrange a private meeting. Tired of the endless cat-and-mouse game, Santiago agreed, thinking it might help Felicity gain clarity about Marcus's intentions. They met in a library rented by Santiago to ensure privacy. Marcus arrived, fatigue etched on every feature, his usual arrogance replaced by humility. "Santiago, I need your help." His voice was subdued, lacking its usual confidence. "I can't lose Felicity. She's everything to me. And the baby. I need to be a better man." Santiago watched him with skepticism. "I've known you since we were kids, Marcus. I know you're not a monster, but you made an unforgivable mistake." Marcus lowered his head. "I know. If you really want to fix this, apologies won't be enough." Santiago's voice was firm. "You have to cut all contact with Chloe. You have to prove your loyalty day by day. And, above all, you have to give Felicity the space she needs." Marcus nodded, tears blurring his vision. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." But words were no longer enough. Felicity, trapped in her own grief, needed more than promises. She needed tangible proof that Marcus would change. For the future of their family. The ultimate betrayal and a path forward. The air in Manhattan felt tense and electric in the days leading up to Chloe Price's exclusive interview. Rumors ran wild through high society. Tabloids splashed provocative headlines. "Chloe Price tells all." Social media burned with speculation about what secrets Marcus Thorne's alleged mistress would reveal. From her refuge at Santiago Ruiz's house, Felicity watched with growing dread as her private pain became a public spectacle. Marcus was also uneasy. Though he tried to focus on urgent company matters, particularly threats from his ruthless rival, Ethan Nash, his mind was trapped in fear of what Chloe might reveal. He worried she'd share intimate details impossible to erase with any damage control strategy. But what concerned him most was Felicity. Her health and emotional well-being hung by a thread, and the stress of the scandal only worsened it. On a warm Thursday evening, the anticipated interview finally aired on one of the country's most watched entertainment programs. Under normal circumstances, Felicity would have avoided watching. But her need to know, however painful, outweighed her desire to remain ignorant. She had to hear firsthand what Chloe planned to say. Santiago Ruiz and Olivia Davies joined her in the living room, seated around the enormous flat-screen TV. Felicity hugged a cushion tightly to her chest, her knuckles white with tension. The show's host began with a dramatic introduction, recapping the whirlwind of controversy surrounding Marcus's birthday party on the yacht. Then, with a theatrical gesture, he looked directly into the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with a tone laden with insinuation, "exclusively for you, Chloe Price breaks her silence." Felicity held her breath. And then, Chloe's image appeared on the screen. Her bright red hair, her mysterious expression, and a half-smile that promised to blow everything apart. After a brief commercial break, Chloe Price appeared on the studio set. She wore a striking red dress that draped elegantly over her figure. Her auburn hair gleamed under the lights, carefully styled to project both glamour and innocence. With a self-assured smile, she glided into a white armchair opposite the host, crossing her legs with rehearsed grace. At first, Chloe spoke of her humble beginnings. She grew up in a small town, moved to New York chasing her dreams, tried her hand at modeling, and did whatever it took to break into a world of wealth and power. She presented herself as a victim of circumstances, a fighter who had accidentally stumbled upon the elites. Felicity felt her stomach clench. She recognized the calculated performance. The interviewer changed course and steered the conversation to Marcus. The audience leaned forward, anticipating scandalous details. Chloe also leaned in, her voice adopting a sweet, almost regretful tone. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she whispered. "But sometimes, when two souls connect, it's impossible to resist." Felicity gritted her teeth. Every word from Chloe was like a knife in her already wounded heart. She saw the shadow of indignation cross Santiago's face. She felt Olivia's hand on her shoulder, an attempt to comfort her. "Are you suggesting Marcus Thorne wasn't happy in his marriage?" the interviewer asked. Chloe paused, savoring the moment. "From my perspective, yes." Her tone was soft, as if confessing a heartbreaking truth. He wanted more. Not just someone who shared his luxurious life, but his passions, his loneliness. "I was there for him." Then she sighed, feigning empathy. "Felicity is a wonderful woman. I truly believe that. But Marcus needed something more." A wave of fury washed over Felicity. Chloe's audacity, portraying herself as Marcus's savior, made her blood boil. A tear slipped down her cheek. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to maintain composure. For the baby's sake. The interview reached its peak when Chloe reached under her seat and pulled out a small velvet pouch. "There's been a lot of talk that I was just a fling," she murmured, directing a calculated gaze at the camera. "But this key proves otherwise." She slid a gleaming silver key between her delicate hands, holding it up for the cameras to capture clearly. "It's the key to Marcus's Tribeca condo, the hideaway we shared." A murmur rippled through the audience. "He told me it was for us to start anew, away from the media chaos, away from everything else in his life." The interviewer's eyes widened in surprise. It was either an authentic reaction or part of the script to heighten the drama. Across the country, millions of viewers held their breath. In Santiago Ruiz's house, Felicity felt her world crumble. It was a lethal blow. The affair wasn't just stolen kisses or furtive encounters. Chloe was suggesting a future, a world beyond casual infidelity. Felicity clung to the cushion, tears gushing uncontrollably. She felt Olivia tense beside her. Even the always serene Santiago let out a low curse. Felicity wanted to throw the phone against the wall, but she held back. Part of her needed to hear Marcus confirm or deny Chloe's story. If there was any truth to the Tribeca claim, if Marcus had really planned a new life with his lover, she wasn't sure she could bear it. Another part feared becoming even more entangled in a web of half-truths. The interview ended with a media explosion. The breathless host encouraged social media debate. Within minutes, Twitter trends exploded. Hashtag Chloe tells all, hashtag Marcus and Chloe, hashtag billionaire scandal. In less than an hour, major news outlets replicated the story. Paparazzi surrounded the Tribeca condo, eager to photograph anyone entering or exiting. Felicity, trembling, looked up at Santiago. "I need answers." Her voice was a shaky whisper. Santiago took the remote and turned off the TV. "You'll get them," he said softly. "But we need to be strategic. If Marcus really wants to save his marriage and his reputation, he'll have to face you. Away from the media chaos." Olivia said firmly, "We can't let Chloe's performance affect Felicity any more, or the baby." A second later, Felicity's phone rang. It was Marcus. She hesitated. Then she answered. "What do you want?" Marcus's voice sounded urgent, desperate. "I swear to you the key is stolen. That condo is for corporate use. You can check the records. I never invited her there. She must have found out somehow. Please, Felicity, I need to see you. We need to talk face to face." Felicity closed her eyes, torn between anger and a tiny spark of hope. Finally, she agreed to a brief meeting. Santiago insisted it be in a neutral location, far from prying eyes. The manager of the Waldorf Astoria offered a private lounge. Felicity's heart pounded painfully in her chest. She left Santiago's house, accompanied by him, ensuring she entered the Waldorf Astoria quickly without being detected by paparazzi. Upon arriving at the private lounge, she found Marcus slumped in a velvet armchair. As soon as he saw her, he leaped to his feet, his eyes heavy with remorse. His appearance was disheveled, like a man who hadn't slept or shaved in days. For a brief instant, something within Felicity pulled at her compassion, until she remembered the pain of the betrayal. "I'm so sorry," Marcus began, his voice breaking. "I can't believe she did this. She turned everything into a media circus." He ran a hand over his face, desperate. "The Tribeca condo? Yes, it belongs to Thorn Enterprises, but it's a place we use for visiting executives." His voice dropped, laden with frustration. "Chloe must have stolen a key from my office. She must have planned this whole spectacle from the beginning." Felicity's rage flared again. "Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to see another woman flash a key as if it represented your plans for a new life?" Her eyes filled with furious tears. "I believed you when you said this affair meant nothing. But that key says otherwise." Marcus tried to approach, wanting to take her hands, but she pulled away. "That's exactly what she wants you to think." His voice dropped to a murmur. "She wants to destroy both of us and ruin my reputation." He paused before adding, his voice cracked, "But I know I'm responsible for letting it get this far." He clenched his fists. "I gave her the weapon to attack us. If I had never let her into my life," Felicity whispered, her voice trembling, "why did you do it?" Her eyes shone with tears. "Why wasn't I enough?" The pain on Marcus's face was evident. "You are more than enough, Felicity." A tear rolled down his cheek. "You're everything I've ever wanted." He swallowed hard. "My stupidity, my selfishness. There's no excuse." He inhaled raggedly. "I was in a dark place, overwhelmed by business pressure, and I let myself be seduced by someone who knew how to exploit my vulnerability." His gaze was pure guilt. "I take full responsibility." Felicity remembered Chloe's triumphant smile in the interview, her insinuations, her way of saying Marcus needed something more. "How do I know it's not another lie?" Felicity asked, her voice fragile. "How do I know you're not just trying to save your image because you got caught?" Marcus pulled out his phone, his hands trembling, and found documents. "Here are the property records." His voice was strained. "Emails from my corporate administration team." He held out the phone. "Check for yourself." Felicity glanced over the documents. The papers showed that Thorn Enterprises was the sole owner of the condo. The occupancy records showed no stays by Marcus or Chloe. She felt a strange relief mixed with anguish. If Chloe had lied about the condo, then perhaps everything else was also a charade. But the betrayal was still real. Marcus chose to be unfaithful, regardless of Chloe's manipulations. Felicity handed back the phone, exhaling slowly. "I believe you when you say Chloe set you up." Her eyes were cold, devoid of their former warmth. "But the truth remains that you allowed her into your life." Her voice broke. "Into your heart." She took a step back. "That's your fault, Marcus." He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. "I know." His voice was barely a whisper. "I will spend the rest of my life making amends for this, if you let me." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. "I can't bear the thought of losing you or our child. Let me show you that we can rebuild this." For an instant, Felicity felt her defenses falter. She looked at Santiago, who remained silent by the door. Their eyes met. He gave her a slight nod, reminding her she was in control. Felicity turned back to Marcus. "My trust is broken." Her voice was a thread of pain. "But we are bound by the life of this baby." She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. This child deserves stability, honesty, and love. Her hands trembled. "I'm willing to listen." Marcus's eyes shone with a glimmer of hope. "It's all I ask." Felicity inhaled shakily. She knew the paparazzi were waiting eagerly outside. The tabloids were already writing new headlines. But in that instant, none of that mattered. There were only two paths before her: try to save her marriage or walk away forever. And she wasn't sure yet which she would choose. A twist of fate and a difficult choice. Just as Felicity and Marcus reached an unstable truce, Olivia Davies burst into the room, breathless. "Felicity, you have to come with me. Now." Her face was pale. For an instant, Felicity feared something was wrong with her pregnancy. But Olivia shook her head and held out an envelope. "Look at this." Felicity's hands trembled as she took the photos. The images showed not Chloe with Marcus, but Chloe with Ethan Nash, one of Marcus's most ruthless rivals. A financial shark known for trying to undermine Thorne Enterprises on multiple occasions. In the photos, Chloe and Nash were dining together, reviewing documents, and then shaking hands. The dates on the images were weeks before the interview. Marcus's eyes widened. She was working with Nash this whole time. His voice was a horrified whisper. "To sabotage us." The puzzle pieces began to click into place. And the worst was about to be revealed. Chloe had to cause enough scandal to destabilize Marcus's personal and professional life. Perhaps Nash had something to gain if Thorne Enterprises stock plummeted, or if Marcus was forced to resign as CEO of his own company. Felicity flipped through the photos, her emotions swirling. Anger grew within her, not just at Chloe, but at Marcus, for being so naive. But, at the same time, she felt a strange relief. The infidelity was real, yes, but now it seemed clear that Chloe's motivations had been even more manipulative than Felicity had imagined. Still, Marcus's betrayal still hurt. Could she ever fully forgive him? The tense silence was broken by Olivia, who said, "We just found this out." She cleared her throat before continuing. "My press contact told me Nash is planning a hostile takeover. Marcus, your board needs to know this immediately." Marcus nodded, his expression hardening with determination. He turned to Felicity. "I know I don't deserve your help, but please, let's fight this together." His eyes pleaded with her. "Chloe manipulated me. Yes, but I am responsible for my weakness." He inhaled deeply. "I want to keep our family together. I will do whatever it takes." Felicity hesitated. She remembered the lonely nights, the tears she'd shed over his betrayal. But then she thought of the ultrasound, of her baby's tiny, vibrant heartbeat. Soon, her child would inherit a legacy. For better or worse, could Felicity find it in her heart to try again? If not for Marcus, at least to give her child a stable life with both parents. Taking a trembling breath, Felicity forced herself to look him in the eyes. Her voice was a fragile whisper. "I don't promise to forgive you immediately." Marcus held his breath. "But I will stand by you to protect our future." She straightened firmly. "You'll have to earn my trust, step by step." Her gaze hardened. "No more secrets." A wave of relief crossed Marcus's face. "I swear." "Felicity." His voice trembled with emotion. "No more secrets." Rebuilding from the ashes. In the days that followed, Marcus and Felicity presented the evidence to the Thorne Enterprises board. Nash's plot was exposed, halting his hostile takeover attempt. Chloe, unmasked, fled the public eye, leaving behind a storm of scandal that would likely haunt her for years. Meanwhile, in the privacy of the penthouse, Marcus and Felicity began to rebuild their fragile bond. Luxurious galas and extravagant shopping sprees were replaced by long conversations, tearful confessions, and therapy sessions. Felicity moved back home, though cautiously. She focused on her health and the baby. Marcus, for his part, severed all ties with Chloe, even obtaining a restraining order in case she tried to sabotage him again. Only time would tell if love and determination could truly heal the wounds of betrayal. But for the first time since that fateful night on the yacht, Felicity felt a glimmer of hope. The path would be difficult, but at least they would walk it together. One day, one promise, one heartfelt apology at a time. Thank you for joining me on this tumultuous journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. The story of Marcus, Felicity, and Chloe reminds us that, even in the most glamorous lives, secrets and lies can bring everything crashing down. And that, in the end, The choices we make after the storm truly define who we are. Will Marcus and Felicity's fragile hope grow into a stronger love? Can trust ever be fully restored once it's broken? These are questions that invite us to reflect on our own relationships and the power of forgiveness. If this drama-filled story has captivated you, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to this channel. Every like, comment, and subscription helps us continue creating stories that explore the complexities of the human heart. What do you think will happen next for Felicity and Marcus? Will their bond truly withstand the test of time and public scrutiny?